Let's talk about the Talkable 4. This is a voice output communication device from Enabling Devices. I do want to make a note, this is the old version, the old model. It still functions the same. What I'm going to show you is almost identical. However, in the new model, the record switch and the level controller are actually on the back now instead of underneath. So that does give you easier access to make changes. Other than that, everything else is the same. So the Talkable 4 has 4 buttons and 12 levels. So that gives you a total of 48 messages that can be recorded onto this device. It does come with the clear covers on the buttons so you can insert a symbol and place it that way. I do not prefer to do that because these things over time get loose, they fall off. I took them off for this video because there's such a bad glare, and for some of the kids I work with, that glare, their visual skills, it's just really distracting. So I typically use it like this with soft Velcro pieces, and then I am able to Velcro my pieces on top. Another option here is to use the easel that is built into this device. It is a little, I have trouble changing these quickly. Sometimes it goes right in. Other times now they're going right in. But oh, that one's fighting back. There. And this is a really good option as well. The viewing angle isn't perfect on the camera. It's more like that. And you can see what's there. If you have kids that are transitioning from a PECS book where they're used to taking a symbol and handing it to someone to request, this can be a nice transition device because, I can get that back in there. If they go to grab the symbol, they are most likely going to hit the button as they are reaching. So they're getting the cause and effect with the voice. Another feature of this device is obviously the 12 levels. If we look on the back here, it's set up like a clock. Right now I'm on level 2. Level 1 on every single Talkable 4 I own is the same. I use level 1 for yes, no, and then I choose either I don't know or maybe, or sometimes both. I always keep that for level 1. You need to have a system for knowing what is on each of the levels to save you time. You can just use a Excel spreadsheet or a table in Microsoft Word and then just type out, or as they change, write it in pencil so that you can update, have a 4x12 grid, and then you know what is on each of the levels and you can keep it with the device. It just saves a lot of time. And then you're not re-recording or recording on the wrong level because you know what is in here already. As I mentioned before, I use this for yes and no. I always try and keep consistent with using no for a red switch and green for a yes switch. It just gives an additional level of feedback that I don't have to prompt. They see it. They learn that green means, go or yes, and red means stop or no. The other benefit to this is the green and the red are on opposite sides of this device. So they have to purposefully move across midline to tap whichever one, depending on how they are seated and how this is set up and which hand they're using. The only time I wouldn't do that is if there were some physical limitations that were preventing them from traveling that far. But for the most part, that's how I do set it up when I'm working on yes, no. Then I also put maybe and I don't know, because sometimes they don't know, or they're not sure, or they don't have a clear yes or no. So that's what I use these two for. I don't know and maybe. Or I don't know, I need help. That's another option for this. If you were to use these two for yes and no, you just don't know if they accidentally hit this one or if they accidentally hit this one, that kind of a thing. So the farther apart, if you use a Talkable 3, for example, they have a Talkable 2, They have a Talkable 3 and a Talkable 4. So if you were using a 3 and you did yes and no here and then a third choice in the middle, that would work as well. But I do, if they can move that far, I prefer the 4 because then you get 48 messages with all of the 12 levels. Other features of this device, this is what the microphone looks like. Again, that's going to look different on the new version, but it does look very similar. You want to record about 6 inches away, as clear as you can when you're speaking, so it doesn't get distorted. On the back here, we have a screw secured battery compartment. You always, always, always want to have, I'm going to turn this off so it doesn't speak when I put it down. You always want to have a set of those small eyeglass screwdrivers and extra batteries. Make yourself up a little AAC kit, and then you'll always be prepared. Because if you can't get into here because you don't have the right size screwdriver, that child is just, the whole day, they have no voice. Really, really important to make sure that you always keep some extra batteries and those screwdrivers to get in and change those. This is your 12 levels. It's very easy to switch between them. And then I also want to show you how to record. So I chose a level 4 here. Let's turn it on. To record, you are going to hold the record button and press the switch button at the same time. It's cold today.
It's cold today.
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry.
And so on and so forth. So there you have a quick tip on how to record. Very easy, very simple. You can change the messages out throughout the day. But again, if you can set some levels that are always the same, you're more likely to use them with the student. Another way to use this device is like a step level communicator. An example of that would be if you get an email from a parent and they tell you what the child did over the weekend. Let's use camping as an example. You label these 1, 2, 3, 4. You would put a picture symbol here. I would use the Velcro. So I'd have a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. To teach that child, I want them to hit 1, then 2, then 3, then 4 to tell their story. So 1 might be, we went camping this weekend. We took our big camper and the pickup truck. I got to sleep on the top bunk. It was cold, but I still had a lot of fun. Then when they're in group time and they're talking about, what did you do this weekend? The child has all 4 levels to go through and retell their story. Same thing goes for something that happened at school. This happened, then I did this, then we did that. I had a great day. And then they can take this home and they can repeat that to family at home. Excellent way to teach storytelling, narration, giving them a voice when saying all those words themselves would be really, really hard. I love this device. It's one of my absolute favorites. It's a good transition from PECs to voice output without jumping from PECs to a high-tech communication device, so that we learn some skills, some strategies that will then help them if we transition them to a high-tech communication device. Things like discrimination and choice making and physical movement towards a preferred item. Also, that sequencing skill can be incorporated here. I would definitely recommend that you have one of these in your toolkit, and I will leave a link in the description below for where you can purchase this. The last thing, before I forget, it also will hook up to an external toy. And I showed in a previous video the fantastic fan. So if I were to put a switch operated device into this socket here, if they activate the button, the device will run. This works really well if you have a vocational type classroom or at home if you have switch adapted things. So they can run a blender, and they can run an electric knife, and they can run, there's a lot of switch adapted environmental controls, and they can do the different steps of the activity by touching the buttons. And you can also record what's happening. So time to use the blender, or let's mix that up, or we have to cut that into smaller pieces. So you can attach not just an action, but you can attach voice to that action. Really, really adaptable device, multi-purpose, worth your investment for sure. If you have any questions about the Talkable 4 with 12 levels, please put them in the description below, and I will answer any questions that you ask.